láyé olúgbọ́n mo ké borùn méje ẹ ò máa kọ yí lórin láyé àrẹ̀sà mo ké borùn mẹ́fà ẹ ò máa kọ yí lórin láyé ìsẹ̀yìn èmi ra kókò mo ra rán mo ra sányán bàbá sọ àfọ̀lẹ́ ló lè pélé.
Hello everyone, my name is Adeyemo Adegbemiga Ganiu and I welcome you to my new Yoruba Abrahamic YouTube video. Today I want to relate on the understanding of the Oya Sheriala or the Israelite cause from the Abrahamic context, especially from the Yoruba people historical perspective and what is really happening across Yoruba land till today. And this is actually a requested video from a super fan who did mail me, I think about 2 weeks ago, asking me to relate with what should be expected. Having known that the Yoruba people are the real people of the book, and how the world is probably going to come, how they are probably going to come together in related to how the Almighty said He will regroup all the enslaved Israelites from different parts of the world, and they will become one again. So this is my take on it. The Bible Torah indeed has some historical foretelling narrative, which many of its prediction has really came to pass, and that is for a fact. And one of it has to do with the transatlantic slavery, which did took place across West Africa, particularly within the Yoruba kingdom, far beyond today's Nigerian of the British colony. Meanwhile, biblical photos and prophecy collectively are mere Ifa oracle prediction, which is Abrahamically referenced to as the oracle of God, and which has always been part of the Yoruba people's heritage for thousands of years, even long before any religion even exists in this very universe, and which is why it's still very much part of the foretelling tools among the Yoruba traditional belief today. So it was never a big deal to have a foretold of something that did happen, the way religionists are carrying this prophecy of the Bible. So therefore, biblical prophecy is no big deal among the Yoruba traditionalists, especially being the fact that whatever they are using to make the prediction are coming from them. And even till today, the Yoruba people still have the ability or the tenacity or even the capacity to even make further 2,000 years prediction with their same Ifa oracle or understand oracle tools which they own and were given to them by the Almighty. As a matter of fact, the correct predictions of the biblical prophecy about slavery across Yoruba land still doesn't validate any modern day religion system, no matter how people try to match it together, irregardless of how religionists may intend to even repackage all these alien religions that they coin around Ifa heritage. Indeed, the biblical text did predict the fall of the Yoruba people, who are better known Abrahamically as the Oya Sheriala nations or the Israelites by the foreigners, or even God's favorite tribes on earth, according to the same Abrahamic context on different occasions. These Oya Sheriala or Israelite, better known as the Yoruba, who were said in prophecy in breakdown, they shall be displaced through foreign invasion by the aliens, and they shall be transported to the four corners of the earth as slaves, a place where they shall go through different horrific experiences, lost their roots, lost their identity, and fall from grace to grass, grace as being kings royal to grass as slaves, and human being reduced to zero beyond animals. You can read this is just the summary of it. You can read it all in Deuteronomy 28, I think to 31 or 32. You can see there. The Bible too, another verse of the Bible context from Genesis 15, 13 to 14 of the same Abrahamic text further stated that these same Oya Sheriala, better known as Yoruba or Israelite, shall also remain in that slavery state of existence for about 400 years under Tarai governance of their enemy. Likewise, in another verse too, like in Luke 21, it's also referring to that this same Oya Sheriala, the Yoruba, shall be led away in captive into different nations, foreign nations aside from the one they initially had. We can also go to the Jeremiah 32 to 37 to 39. Then the Almighty shall gather all the enslaved Oya Sheriala, better known as Yoruba, back to the very place they were taken from. Please take note of that, because we will touch on that very soon. He said the Almighty will later regroup them, recall them back from the slavery port of slavery, whichever place he has put the place sent them to. He will recall them back to the very place they were taken on. Then the Almighty will bring Judah and Israel from captivity and will rebuild them back as the way they were before, which basically indicated that the Yoruba people were extremely great before they went into captive. And this is the part many Abrahamic historians don't talk, because they all fully want to bury the history of the Yoruba people, always want to portray the Yoruba people as a random tribe that just sprang out in just recent years. In a nutshell, let's break down what this understanding in generality from the Abrahamic context basically mean in reference to the slavery and the regrouping back together. What did happen? Let's see how far. First and foremost, we all know that the enslaved Oya Sheriola, better known as the Yoruba people, were from West Africa. That is number one fact you need to identify with. Starting from Ile-Ife Empire, then that partially stretches to the extreme left of today's West Africa by default, and where all the slave plots that Yoruba people were kidnapped from and were taken to far other regions lies till today, like the Nigerian Badagry slave port, the Dahomey slave port, the Ghana Gold Coast, the Senegambia slave port, and so on, the Congo slave port. Each of these locations are where we still have different Yoruba descendants, directly or indirectly, and still till today, why southwest of today's Nigeria remain their origin, the most populated domination, or the most efficient, or the central, the stronghold of their origin collectively as the Oya Sheriola. In a nutshell, these places were the very spots where all Oya Sheriola, better known as Yoruba people, were taken under different numeric different ethnicity in earlier times, were taken from either as Ewe or Anago or Ife, but in Hebrew term as the Heves, as Hebrew, or Ewe or Ile-Ife, and also as Eyeho when we are actually talking about the Oyo from the Hebrew term as well. So secondly, the Bible text equally talks about how this same Oya Sheriola, who are better known as Yoruba, shall also be scattered to the four corners of the earth, or nations of the world, among the Gentiles. Importantly, these are two approaches. There are two different approaches to this narrative. Let me try and use the case of the United States of America for a study here. Do we understand why we can't just generalize that reality to what is happening? There are more than 3 categories of today's African American people. That is for a fact based on historical proof and record we can gather. The first set of Americans were the founders, the Negro founders, or Aniogo, or Yoruba descendants, who first left today's West Africa about 4,000 years ago, based on pre-discovering of the Carthaginian money that were found somewhere around the Yucatan area, I think within the Mexico, during the excavation. And according to the late Professor Leo Wena in his book, Africa and the Discovery of America in 1900, this American professor basically made it known that these Africans brought the first civilization to the soil of America, and they came as intellectuals, as teachers, and people who are vast in knowledge. They were known as the title of Olumek, a Yoruba word from Olumeko or Oluko in Yoruba land, because they were basically Yoruba people. So for you to leave a region to go and re-establish yourself from another place with the knowledge, that means from where you are coming from, you are already educated. The place you are coming from is already saturated with advanced knowledge. So it's not that, which basically means the civilization they took to America, that were taken to America when they were established, times 10 of it were initially in Yoruba land. So these are the Yoruba migrants that left West Africa to go and found today's America. This is why you can also see in so many similar texts, as in context of what they were finding when they were trying to assess some of the acts that were collected. They said they worship the thunder god, and we know this thunder god and the writings can be similar. This writing they found in the Yucca temple can be similar to that of the Mende writings in Sierra Leone. And that thunder god was actually in reference to Shango Lukoso of Oyo Empire, who is actually a deity, or which people continue to dub as thunder god today, or as Zeus, according to the Greeks. So we know of that for sure. The other group of Negro African American are the very enslaved victims that were forcefully transported to America by ships, and which the European continuously, falsely, and deliberately used as a punchline or an origin migration of the Africans in America in order to bury the initial set of Americans that actually came earlier. So the European continuously designated the modern day American history so that it will start from the from the very point of slavery, so that people of the world will never know that some black were initially in America before the slavery thing. So it's a game. And the third set of American categories are the non-Negro descendants of random people who have been in America, whose generations have been in America. They go to America for a greener pasture. For over 2 or 3 generations, they became part of the American system. These are the sons. So but realistically, the people who founded America and people of the slavery were complete 100% West African Yorubas from West Africa. Why some of the descendants, you might say, through ancestral DNA, they are doing today, like someone might say they found that some Americans have the Fulani blood. They are random migrants who have spent more than 3 generations or decades over in America and have become America. But talking about history, the founders of America. So therefore, in this African American situation, it's not enough for us to actually generalize that all African Americans are descendants of West Africa and through slavery. So that is for a fact. Likewise, why it is also impossible or untrue to also categorize all African Negro as Asians, like the Jawaya, the Dravidians of Indian and co, so as the generations of slaves. But what were certain was that the Yoruba became victims of circumstances as Negro across different locations they were being scattered or placed to when the slavery or when the course of the Deuteronomy took place or came to pass. They were actually slaves, but that doesn't mean they weren't part of their people there. So collectively, they lost their identity. This is why I said, even though the prophecy is true, there are still some glitches when it comes to breakdown narration. The top part of the sayings or the predictions from the Abrahamic context have to do with how the Almighty said, all these scattered Oyashelite, the Israelites, shall be brought back together as a nation. Like I said earlier, back to where they were initially stolen from. So let that sink. The prophecy is saying that the Almighty will bring them back to the very location where the displaced migrants were initially taken from. And Judah and that same Oyashelala collectively shall be reinstated back as who they used to be, which are the rulers of the world, the first-class citizens of the world. Because if you check in the Quran, the Almighty made it known that David, who is the leader of the Judah clan, was made the king of the world. So the Bible is basically saying David, that same David and the Judah clans, and also the rest related Oyashelala, they shall now be reinstated back to the very way they were before the Almighty reduced them to rubbish because they went out of line. They couldn't control their arrogancy. So, of course, we know for today for sure that when we are referencing to all these Abrahamic figures, like I said in random my video, the term Judah was basically derived from Eje Odudua, which is better known or understood as the siblings of Odudua. It's like Odudua has his own progeny, but Odudua himself has siblings that they were of the same parent. Those siblings, because when we are talking about Judah, we are talking about collective Oya Sherela who are lineagely related under a single tribe. So these are, because we have Eje Odudua, we have Yehuda, Eya, means distant relatives. When we are talking about Judah or Sudan is basically the progeny, the seed of Odudua, his own children. Eje Odudua is talking about the collective, the collective Judah family who are very strong, headed by David, who is better known as Odudua, which is why the Odudua or Judah kingdom is still at part of the Ile-Ife kingdom as Odudua. Of course, Odudua was the ruler of Ile-Ife, who is better known as Enitoman Dawole Odu, the seeker of Ifa oracle for guide, which is why David throughout the Bible was really identified with the guide of the oracle. He so much believed in oracle, and also as King David in the Abrahamic context. Odudua or King David, being the collective Yoruba and Oya Sherela, as the Quran stated, were like lineage people, like when we are talking about the southern part of Nigeria, collectively, Omo Odudua, the children of Odudua who had became kings across today's southwest of Nigeria, these are the Judah. And when we are talking about the Israelite collectively, Oya Sheriola, Oya Osheri, Sheri in Yoruba basically means migration. Osheri Losita Osheri. So when we are talking about the Oya Sheriola, the Israelite, we are talking about portion of the initial majority of the Yorubas in West Africa who has once migrated out of West Africa and later reintegrate back in reverse migration. And these are the kind of some portion of the Benin people left West Africa. Because when we are talking about the Benin Empire, people misjudge the locations of today's Benin people. I'm not talking about the Edo. The Edo and the Benin, they have so many things in common, in popular, but there are some part of the Benin who are different from the Edo. Some part of the Benin are directly pure blood of the Yoruba people through the sons of David, which is better known as Oromiyan or better known as Solomon. So when we are talking about some part of the Benin was living in North Africa, while some majority were. Likewise in the case of the Jukun, likewise in the case of the Tapa, the Nukwe, maybe I should calm down. You should understand who this Eya Sheriola means. I stated it in breakdown. The name Tapa was what led to why the Abraham people gave their father Naphtali. Naphtali is one of Jacob's son. The name Bini was part of the people of Jacob's son too, which Odudua, David was part. Their father was Benjamin. The name Gad too was of Gadangbe. All of them, they are all sons of Jacob. Yakubu. So they are the one who initially lived outside West Africa. After the fall of North Africa, especially from the time of 9th century when the Pale Arab invaded, they began to revert back in migration. And among them, sub-tribe even emerged, because as they were coming into West Africa, some portion of them continued to break away to form sub-tribes under them. Like the Levi, the father of the Levi, who is also a sibling to Odudua, King David, was TV people. So these are collectively, generally, all these people, they are between today's southwest of Nigeria, part of Middle Belt, which is today around the Jukun area, the Tapa, the Kogi, and also the South. These are the three people I understood very well that they are part of the Israelites, and some of the Ondo as well. These are the collective people. So let's now go back to the context. So the Almighty is basically saying that Judah and also the Oya Sheriola collectively, they will become a single nation. I will reinstate them back collectively as one body, and they will become who they used to be when Yoruba people used to rule the entire world, just as the Quran described David and his people, which is Odudua. So fourthly, then the people continue to ask me again regarding this prophecy that How will all these scattered Yoruba in diaspora and in Africa remember and come together after 400 their entrapment in faraway region based on the cause? Of course, the answer is very simple and very glaring unless people are not really paying much attention to what is going on today. In breakdown, please, before I proceed, I need to tell you guys something. What I'm about to say next is I'm not into any politics. My video is not about any politics, so anybody should not come for me that I'm trying to advocate for something. I'm just saying it in reference for educational purpose within Nigerian economy. So I'm not saying it to divide Nigeria or to cause any problem within the government of the day. So don't take my context out of that. So what I'm saying is that sooner or later, Yoruba nation or the Yoruba sovereign nation will come to pass. This is why I'm saying I'm not coming out to say Yoruba people should unsettle today's Nigeria. No, don't take me, because I don't want DSS to start coming for me. I'm a neutral person. This is just an educational thing. And so sooner or later, Yoruba nation will came to pass. When Yoruba nation came to pass, the cause has broken. And once the center hold, soon as the Oba of Oyo and Ife became the ruler of this Yoruba nation or this empire, became the Yoruba or the paramount ruler of this empire without a British constitutional law that will suppress them out of recognition, then each sons and daughter will now need to reconnect back to their ancestral home. There is a kind of spiritual thing that will begin to make all scattered Yoruba across the world to start relating to their roots of origin because of the greatness that will start popping out of Yoruba nation. Like I keep saying, a tribe is not just, Yoruba people are not just prosperous collectively as an individual or as a group. The prosperity is in their blood system, is part of their DNA. It's just that the Almighty basically remove it then. Once the Almighty reinstated back based on what is happening in reality, a part of what we start realizing that tradition is the only way of life. Our root will be what will be most important to us. And they will start begin either to migrate back to Yoruba land from each corners they've thought they've been taken to. And those who might not really migrate back to West Africa will at least understood that this is where our root is, rather than going from the modern day Israelite nation that the European founded. So these are what I can say about the whole saga of the Abrahamic cause and everyone with the disconnection or the problem between inter-ethnic thing. Because we are all ethnic group of people under the same ancestral figure. It was this late Samuel Ajayi Crowther in 1800 that gave us the umbrella of the title Yoruba. Each of us still have lineage identity. So even though that we are still all Yoruba, and Yoruba people will now continue to. Nobody wants to drop power. This is why it's so much that it is a fight today that everyone wants to put Yoruba under the box. It's by design. Once the Yoruba begin to rise up as people, the world will return back to a state of sanity like it was. If the Yoruba don't get it right, the world will remain what it is. So the invaders, the colonizers, they understand how valuable this tribe how necessary this tribe must be kept under the feet. This is why. So it wasn't just about the American people that are experiencing the toughness of slavery. In today's Nigeria, some side of the country are working as slaves, while some side of the country who are lazy are enjoying the benefit of the labor. Likewise, in America, the Black African American are working for the system, but the few majority who don't even belong to the land, who never founded the land, are enjoying. Likewise, in Caribbean land. So the same torment as a slave is happening directly or indirectly at each corners of where these people of God's height are. It's just that the narratives are different. I will see you in my next video. This is actually a requested video, so this is my take, and I believe this is how the world will actually refer back to sooner or later. Thank you. Make your comment known below respectively. Share it, subscribe it, and make your comment known below. I will try to answer everybody. Thank you and bye for now.